A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are in the world. And thank you for joining us today on this Ministry of Tourism series, Dekho Apna Desh. Today's webinar is Astro-tourism, the next frontier of nature-based tourism, and is presented jointly by Global Himalayan Expedition along with the Office of Astronomy for Development, the OAD. When you look at this picture on the left, it's taken on the banks of the famous Pangong Lake in Ladakh in India. And what you see is clear night sky and the beautiful Milky Way with the naked eye. The universe has always been filled with stars and planets and has looked mesmerizing. And the secrets of outer space and the quest to know more has been there for centuries among the space explorers. On the right hand side is a picture taken by the Voyager 1 spacecraft as it exited the solar system. And what you can see is sunbeams, and suspended in that sunbeam is a pale blue dot. That, my dear friends, is planet Earth. That pale blue dot is where our life thrives and which we need to preserve for our future generations to keep exploring. And these were the famous words of Carl Sagan as he saw this picture. We at Global Himalayan Expedition have been on a quest to bring sustainable development to the remote mountain communities of India. And most of these communities are located in the remote areas of the Indian Himalayas. And since 2013, with a mission to explore as well as bring development, we have brought solar energy to more than 100 villages in the last 8 years. But as we were bringing energy access to these remote villages, what we realized was that it is just not about providing a light bulb, but how can that light bulb lead to the economic advancement of these communities? How can these beautiful yet unknown villages have opportunities for livelihood? And that is where we created a new initiative, which is called the Mountain Homestays, where we are setting up homestays powered by solar energy so that you can get to visit such beautiful areas as you see in this picture: clean air, fresh water, organic food, and a very rich culture and heritage that you get to experience with these communities. And while we were setting up such sustainable infrastructure, what we missed was one very important key aspect, is that besides the rich cultural heritage and the local landscape, these villages also have something very important to offer: the clear night sky. And this is how the clear night sky looks. This is actually a picture taken with any normal DSLR camera. And so while we were surveying villages in 2015, we visited areas such as the Henle in Ladakh, which houses India's highest astronomical observatory. Despite having the best skies on the planet, the homestays here or the observatory did not have any mechanism to show the tourists the beautiful beauty of the night and starry skies. And this led to an idea that why don't we engage the community and set up community-based astrotourism that can be integrated with the homestays in these areas. And this led to some of these beautiful pictures that have come out. And it's all about the clear night skies that these areas have to offer, whether it's in the region of Leh, in Zanskar or Kargil, or any mountain area for that matter across India. And all these remote Himalayan communities have the potential to promote dark skies as a livelihood opportunity. And so in 2019, GHE partnered with the OAD and IAU program to create Astro-tourism and Astro stays in Ladakh. Young men and women were selected from various villages, and the first Astro homestays, which we call as Astro stays, were set up. And these Astro stays are now pioneering the way for the very unique concept of Astro-tourism. To know more about what exactly is the role of OAD, I would now like to hand it over to Kevin.
So firstly, who is this International Astronomical Union? So this is the global body of professional astronomers, established about 100 years ago. They recently celebrated their 100th anniversary, with 12,000 active astronomers in its membership, 82 national members. But essentially, the mission is to promote and safeguard astronomy in all its aspects. And all its aspects include research, communication, education, and development. So the latter of that, development, is what the OAD is about. So about a decade ago, this global body of professional astronomers reflected on how they could use astronomy for global good. Because if we are able to figure out what's going on millions of light years away, then surely we must be able to apply that to the challenges here on planet Earth. Astronomy links to so many different aspects, from the technology and skills through our big telescopes and electronics and big data, to the science and research in different fields, physics, chemistry, mathematics, but also to culture and society, because every culture around the world has some connection to the stars that we have enjoyed over the centuries. Now, how do all these connections impact on development? So for our definition of development, we chose the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And this is where the idea of the Office of Astronomy for Development evolved. So this Office of Astronomy for Development gave rise to this. This thinking gave rise to the Office of Astronomy for Development, which is a partnership between the International Astronomical Union and the South African government through the National Research Foundation and the Department of Science and Innovation. It was established in 2011. Since then, we've established 11 regional offices and language centers across the world. Now, these offices focus either on a geographic region, for example, East Africa, or a language region, for example, the Portuguese language speaking countries. Now, the idea here is that no single office, no single international office can hope to understand every region of the world. So we work through these regional offices to maximize the localization of activities and the impact of activities. One of the core activities of the OAD is to issue an annual call for proposals, where we ask anyone, anywhere in the world, to propose projects that use astronomy for development. We're not going to come up with all the great ideas ourselves within the professional astronomy community. So we call out to anyone, anywhere in the world. And to date, we've funded through the International Astronomical Union around 200 projects in over 100 countries, spend about €1 million, and we are still oversubscribed by 5 or 6 times. The principle is that as we find really good projects in different parts of the world, we can use that regional network of offices to roll out or expand that project globally. And this is where our colleagues in India come in. The AstroStays project was one of these funded projects. And due to its incredible success, which Sonal will speak about more later, we chose this as one of the OAD's flagship projects to be rolled out globally. Now, the concept of astrotourism is not unique. In Sutherland, in South Africa, where I've worked for several years, this is the home of the South African Astronomical Observatory. And there have been a significant use of astronomy to stimulate the local economy. The small town of Sutherland has only around 3,000 people, but sees over 12,000 tourists per year. And this has given rise to a whole new economy. What was previously just sheep farming and agriculture, now the economy revolves around this tourism. And this has created jobs for over 100 people and brought in capital investments from outside the small town. Of course, the presence of a world-class observatory allows for such opportunities. but it also allows us to connect indigenous astronomy of this, indigenous understanding of the skies, and connecting the observatory to the town through art and culture projects. And these present unique opportunities to that area. But it's not just that we need to have an observatory. In New Zealand, in other parts of the world, as an example, New Zealand has completely grown this astrotourism industry, and it's leveraged dark skies, just dark skies, without necessarily having an observatory, to stimulate a multi-million-dollar tourism industry. One of the most recent success stories is Tekapo's Dark Sky project. This is a center that's focused on astrotourism, a visitor center where people can come and learn about the stars and enjoy the night skies. Well, our colleagues in India are also setting their own trends. Apart from the AstroStays project in Ladakh, an Astro Park has been approved by the MP Tourism Board to be set up in Mandu. And this will be the first Astro Park in India that will be set up by a tourism board and operated by a community from nearby villages. So our objective is, as the Office of Astronomy for Development and the International Astronomical Union, is to learn from these astrotourism trailblazers at GHE in India and to support them to spread these ideas globally. We have already established AstroTourism as our #1 flagship project of the OAD, and we have already introduced our colleagues from GHE and AstroStays to the regional coordinators of all our offices all around the world. I'll now hand back to my colleague Sonal, who can describe the AstroStays project in a bit more detail.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And it's always so inspiring to learn about OAD's work, as always. So coming back to AstroStays, following up on what Kevin said, we wanted to create a community-led model that engaged the local community, and it brought the benefits of astrotourism directly into the economy. Next slide, Jaideep, please. So GHE has been working in Ladakh for almost a decade now, and building upon electrification and then creating homestays. We found that skies was really an untapped resource, and how could we leverage those clear night skies to actually create a community-led astrotourism model is something that we'll talk about in the next slides. So how did it all start? Now, when you talk about astronomy, it actually comes across as a very daunting word. People think that, either it's a very luxury science that requires very expensive infrastructure and setups to be done, or it is something that's very scientific, which probably would not be able to be broken down to the level of, people in the hospitality industry. So what we did was, on your screen, you actually see the people who were trained as part of this project. So we selected 35 people from around 15 remote villages, and we have a very, very enthusiastic number of women who actually participated in this project and training. And the gamut of people that we worked with ranged from people who had never been to school to people who had dropped out from, say, high school, and people who had just started, pursuing their education. And how did we actually break it down? We started with their connection of the skies. Every culture, has some connection to the skies, which, helps them in daily chores, be it, harvesting or navigation or just kind of doing their daily chores. So we started getting out the stories of what skies meant to them. And as we got the indigenous and the heritage folklore out, we started mapping it to the science behind this folklore. So we started really slow, taking a word from astronomy. We did not go big bang, but we started really phase-wise, saying that, to start this model, probably this is the small amount of information that is required for training. So we provided training on basics of astronomy and how to operate Dobsonian telescopes. Next slide, Judy. And this actually led to the genesis of the Astro Stay. So the first Astro Stay in India has been set up on the banks of the Pangong Lake. Now, we all know that Pangong is high up on the bucket list of anybody who visits Ladakh. But it's generally a day trip, right? People, travel from Leh to Pangong, take pictures of the beautiful lake and then head back. Only a few enthusiasts who want to experience the night skies kind of stay back. But then what about if you had a guided session by trained people who could actually help you curate a very unique and beautiful experience of not just the lake, but also the beautiful skies that Pangong has, and also help you, immerse in that local culture as well. And this merging of astronomy and tourism is what led to Astro Stays. So the picture that you see on your screen is, from one of the trainers who have been trained not just on, the theoretical aspects of it, but also the latest gadgets and technologies. So she's using stellarium. And the visitors who actually come to the homestays are first, given an expectation of what is it that they can expect to see in the night skies. So sky maps have been provided to the entire team of the Astro Stays, and based on how the outlook of the skies looks like at a particular month, they already have an orientation of what exactly to show to the tourists. Next slide, Judy. And we call our team who run these Astro Stays as astropreneurs. It's a 5-member team, extremely passionate and dedicated. And, I always keep saying that, we train them and move out, but they are the ones who actually, with extreme dedication and commitment, stay up till midnight, even till 1 a.m., even if, if the tourists want to experience the night skies, to actually make this model work. So I would not say that, the problem is not always technical. You really have to have the commitment and passion to make it work. And this is the team that actually led to the success of the entire model. Next slide, Judy. And these are another. So the team comprises of 5 people, which are 4 are women, and 1 is a male member. Next slide, Judy, please. And these are some of the astronomy sessions that are conducted. So the telescope is brought into a community space every night for the sessions, and the tourists, they either stay in the homestays that are there on the bank of Pangong, or there are also some small hotels and resorts that are there. So during when the sessions are conducted, most of these travelers, they congregate in one space where the telescopes has been set up, and the night gazing sessions are conducted. Next slide, Judy, please. And of course, astro-tourism necessitates night stays as well. So that is why, the team who runs these Astro Stays are trained not just on astronomy, but also on hospitality as well. And frankly, one of the, I would say, the major challenge in astro-tourism is that, there is a lack of cross collaboration between astronomy and tourism. Despite being promoted as a tourism offering, I think astronomy and tourism, they often function in silos. The new development in astronomy that can bring value add to the overall traveler experience are often not leveraged in the tourism sector. So overcoming these silos is very, very essential for developing that, reciprocal capacities for learning and creating a unique experience for the traveler. Next slide, JD. And this is again a picture of one of our Astro Stays. You can look at the beautiful skies that Pangong has. Next slide, please. And this has been the impact so far. So we almost had 4 to 5 months to test this model and to run it. Of course, last year the pandemic hit, and nobody could actually travel. So in all those 4 or 5 months of operations of this Astro Stays, 6 of them were created. We trained 30 women, out of which 12 were differently able, and $3,200 amount of revenue was generated. Of course, this includes both the revenue that was generated from the astronomy sessions as well as people who were booking these homestays. Next slide, please, Sherry. And in the pandemic, the revenue that was generated through these Astro Stays is now being pumped back into community development. So, washing hands is something that the pandemic requires. You have to wash them again and again. And you know that Ladakh has not just scarcity of water, but also it's very cold over most of the time. So the money that was generated through the Astro Stays, people bought solar heaters, and now it's being, set up in the same community area where the telescope was being housed, and people are actually using it to wash their hands and warm the water for the daily chores. Right. And again, there are greenhouses also that are being set up from the revenue that's been generated from the Astro stays. Kevin talked about the Astro Park in Mandu. So what Astro Park is, Astro tourism again has different ways, forms and shapes. And, Astro stays is a more community model where the travelers stay in the homestays and the homestays of the local communities. And an Astro Park is more of a community collaborative model where, the travelers may choose to stay in hotels and resorts nearby, but there is a community space where this, the astronomy setup is done, and the youth from the local communities actually run this entire space. So where in India can you actually go to, for stargazing, and what are the best places? So I'll hand it over to Jaideep now. Over to you, Jaideep.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Sonal. Thank you, Kevin, for such a informative and for a very detailed description on what exactly the entire initiative is all about, and how can astronomy create livelihood? Because I think that's the question that everyone asks, that yes, there are clear night skies, but how can those clear night skies also enable livelihood and income for the very communities that are living in such remote and far-flung places? And so based on that, and as part of this entire webinar series, Dekho Apna Desh, why don't we talk about, why go to New Zealand, what Kevin talked about? Why don't we explore a beautiful India? And, there are some places that we have compiled in terms of the best places in India for stargazing. Are you all ready for this? Let's go. We have the Ran of Kutch. I feel like I'm an award presenter, but yeah, we have the Ran of Kutch in Gujarat, which has very clear night skies. You have the expansive, salt flats, and you can see in this picture there's a couple of travelers who have camped in the middle of nowhere, and this is just some beautiful pictures that you can take. You can take a small amateur telescope as well and see the clear night sky. So while you go for the famous Kutch Fest, the Ran of Kutch festival, stay in the beautiful accommodations, the tented accommodations or the homestays, and then why not enjoy the clear night sky as well. Then from Gujarat, let's go to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, our most beautiful, pristine place of India, where people go for a lot of other activities, whether it's, snorkeling, whether it's beach sports, or whether it's just staying with the communities. And then what happens? I mean, you can't be in the beach on the night. So what do you do at night? Well, why don't you enjoy the clear night sky here as well? And it provides you opportunities to take such beautiful pictures, along with, of course, see if there is a way to sort of, learn about the folk tales, because Sonal mentioned it very nicely. All of these communities that live in such remote areas, for them, before calendars existed, it was all the sun and moon and stars that used to tell them, what to do when. And so those folk tales still exist and are very much part of the local culture. So learn about those folk tales, learn about how the suns and the moons and the stars influence everything on a day-to-day basis from the local communities. From Andaman, let's come to central India, Madhya Pradesh. You have the Khajuraho temple, but Madhya Pradesh, like even Sonal mentioned, we are setting up our first community-driven Astro Park in Mandu, and it's a clear vantage point where you get to see the night sky. And just building a little more on that, this Astro Park will be run by the community. And what do we mean by that? Essentially, the tourism board is investing in the infrastructure, and the community will be operating it on a day-to-day basis. The community will be trained on the science, on the myths, on the legends, and then they will be hosting travelers who come to Mandu. And then, all of the night sky exploration can be done only at night. So where do the people stay at night? They go into the homes of these villagers and stay there. And so that's how Astro is creating economic benefit and livelihood for the local communities in Mandu through homestay-based tourism. And then it also provides the communities to also sell their handicrafts to the travelers who are coming in. So it just creates a nice model, economic model, through one simple element, which is astronomy. And then let's go to the north, Spiti. Everyone aspires to go to the Himalayas, and whether it's Ladakh or Spiti, you just have clear night skies. I mean, you don't even need a telescope at these places. It's just so beautiful to watch the night sky. Just take your camera, start taking pictures, and it just provides a beautiful, unrestricted view from 13 to 15,000 feet of the clear night sky that these beautiful places have. And then all the way south, so all the way north, we've covered the islands. Now let's go all the way south to Coorg in Karnataka, where again you can see such beautiful views of the night sky. And again, these are just some of the places all over India. And then from south, let's go to Rajasthan, Jaisalmer. Just this picture is so fascinating, the deserts and the Milky Way. And again, think of the communities that live in these areas and how, again, reflect back on the model that we talked about of astrotourism bringing in economic and value creation for these communities here. And so that's where the entire development model is actually coming in together and can be leveraged across these multiple locations to create a very sustainable and a very unique model of value creation and exploration for the travelers. And of course, North Sikkim. So it's all, you have the mountains, you have the islands, and you have the desert. I think that covers the entire geography of our beautiful India. But there are many such locations where you can view the clear night sky. And now, if some of you are interested and would like to understand, this AstroStay thing looks very good. But what does it take to set up an AstroStay? Well, and Sonal, please join me on this. What does it take to set up an AstroStay? It's something that we feel not only impacts the sustainable development goals, but also creates a very unique model. And Sonal, would you like to add something here on what do you think it takes to set up an AstroStay and demyth the fact that it requires a huge technology investment and it requires maybe a lot of resources? What in your experience has been, your personal experience at Pangong?
Sure, JD. Yeah, like we said, the word astrotourism, the feelings that it generally invokes is that, it probably requires huge telescopes like observatories or planetariums or basically huge infrastructure, or it's a very daunting science, something that will take ages for somebody to understand, but that's really a myth. All it takes is passion, really, and a committed, driven set of people. Like I said, the problems are not always technical. You can, in Pangong, where, Jaideep has, what you see on your screen, what really clicked was not just the night sky, but basically a destination which already had substantial form of tourism. So it just took a telescope, a committed group of people, basic training, not just on astronomy and hospitality, and all of that package came together to form this AstroTourism. Of course, we linked it with the UN Sustainability Development Goals in order to monitor and evaluate, because what you cannot measure is something that is always dangerous. So we made sure that whatever project that we were doing, we always linked it to the SDGs in order to see the impact and value that it was creating.
And thank you so much, Sonal, for sharing. So essentially, what we want to bring out here is that if you are maybe a homestay owner who's watching this, if you are a resort owner who's watching this, or if you are a tourism board or any traveler, because it's not just the responsibility of a homestay owner or an organization like ours, but it's responsibility of you as a traveler to demand such unique experiences and to see how your travel to such locations leaves behind a positive, sustainable footprint. Because as we continue to explore Dekho Apna Desh and as we continue to explore India, we should not end up in a situation where we end up spoiling the destinations that we visit. So what are the more unique ways? I mean, in this example that Sonal shared, a lot of the travelers go to Pangong, but it's more of a day trip for them. And it creates a lot of sort of local, it puts a pressure on the local ecosystem. But what we are trying to do here is, just to give you an idea, in Pangong, there's a point called the Three Idiots Point, where the shooting was done of the movie. Now, every traveler wants to go there. Now, these villages where the Astro stays are set up are located at 30 kilometers away from that spot. what they ended up doing is creating dispersal of tourism. So instead of everyone going on this small patch of land, now people are dispersing across. They are trying to go to these villages that are 20, 30 kilometers away from these spots, creates a less reduced pressure on that local ecosystem, and then also benefits the community. Because imagine in an earlier situation where the travelers were just coming in, seeing the lake and going back, and there is nothing for the community. Now suddenly there is income generation and livelihood for the community as well. And so it could even be a national park. I mean, national parks have such beautiful night sky. And what we can do is actually look at how the wildlife rangers can be trained as astronomers. So during the day, they're showing the beautiful wildlife, and in the night, they're showing the beautiful night sky. So it could be a beautiful location such as the Pangong Lake. It could be a beautiful national park such as the Jim Corbett's or the Periyar, where astronomy can really be brought as a tool for exploration of the night sky, and really bring in that excitement of science and technology and bring in the community. Ultimately, it's all about how, as a traveler, it's not about just the tourism board benefiting from it, or not just the sort of a handful of social organizations benefiting from it. It's about the community. How can travel, you as a traveler, leave and create value creation for the communities that you visit? How can you learn from these communities? And always remember that when you visit a destination, when you go ahead and you see Apna Desh, India, it's always a two-way street. You are there, you experience the beautiful things that the community has to offer, and in return, the community also learns a lot from you as someone who's coming from outside, and they also want to showcase their culture. They also want to showcase their unique things that they have. And night sky is just something that we want to add on to that entire package of what the community wants to show. So integrate the indigenous community. And you know what? Since we set up the telescopes in the banks of Pangong Lake, it has created an interest in science. It has created an interest in space in the local community. And now the kids want to learn more about it. And so when there was an education center set up, the first things that the kid wanted to, the students from these villages wanted to do was learn about Mars exploration, and they wanted to watch videos by NASA. So it's really about exciting that spirit of science and technology in these communities. And Sonal, would you like to talk about, what does it take to train on astronomy? How difficult is it to train communities on astronomy?
So when you say astronomy, it really is a gamut of information that you could actually, share with the people that you want to train. I was just seeing a comment by somebody, in the chat section saying that in the Pench Reserve in Madhya Pradesh, there is an 8-inch Dobsonian that has been set up, but nobody has been really trained to do that in a national park. So what a wastage of resource, right? So training on astronomy, it can actually be in a phased manner. There are people who are uninitiated and there are people who are initiated as well. So you can look at a hybrid model, where for people who are not yet initiated into astronomy, even looking at the, craters on the moon, or looking at, the rings of the Saturn or the Jupiter, those are moments that can actually change somebody's life. I know, I remember I looking at the craters of the moon for the first time and just going, wow. So you can train them on basics first, and then as the team's understanding gradually evolves, you can look at, more advanced concepts like, going to nebula and galaxies. And this is our take on, Astro stays in India, and probably Kevin can share something from his experience in South Africa.
Yeah, I can just say that, when it comes to training, it's really not very difficult to train someone to use one of these telescopes and to understand the basics of the night sky and what you're seeing. But I think a big thing that we've always emphasized is that the knowledge within the communities is so valuable. It's not just about training people on the modern astronomy, but also on the traditional understandings and use of the stars, and that is a value that tourists also are attracted to.
Thank you so much, Kevin and Sonal. And so it's not just about, training them on astronomy. So one part is this, but, like someone in the comments mentioned, once they're trained on it, you also, if you can train them on hospitality, if you can train them on how to host local travelers, and then it just creates a very unique package because remember, when there is astronomy, that means it requires night. When it requires night, that means it requires people to stay in that location. And in these remote locations, it has a huge potential to set up homestays for the local communities where they can, host these travelers at night. The travelers can not just experience the night sky, but also the warmth and hospitality of Indian culture, whether it is the North India, whether it's South India, whether it's the West or the East. And imagine, just for a second, imagine that there are these amazing astro stays all across India, and you're experiencing night sky from different parts of India, but you're also with that night sky experiencing the local folk tales from different parts of India, and along with that, you're experiencing the warmth and rich hospitality of the Indian culture, which is at our very heart of what we do. Very proud to say this as an Indian, but it's about the warmth and hospitality that we can integrate with science and technology. What better a combination? And so it's really about promoting homestays with astronomy as a leverage in such areas. And why leave resorts behind? I mean, resorts, if you're a resort owner and if you can create a community space, it just creates a win-win. Because it's not just about homestays, but in these areas we have seen there are so many resorts that are set up. Ran of Kutch, or whether it is the resorts in the northeast part of India, or even the south. If you create a community space within your resort where the community can come in, show the people who are staying in that resort the clear night skies, and also provide them an avenue for maybe showcasing their culture and selling their handicrafts to such community spaces, it just creates a win-win for everyone, where as a resort, as a travel operator, you're creating a huge value creation for the local community, and you're not just taking just profits from the travelers, but you're also giving them an experience which they remember, while creating a meaningful impact on the communities that are coming to these places. And of course, it can all be integrated via mobile apps, which we're sort of developing, and where you can experience the magic of starlit skies through very unique apps which tell you about the place where you are, and where and also what local culture can you experience, what local folktales can be experienced, and what local food can you experience. And so this is just something that we are actually doing a pilot in sandparks in South Africa, where there are more than 50 astro stays that will be in that location. So again, we are working with Kevin and his team to make it happen, and we are planning to deploy this in India as well very soon. You know what? At the end of it all, darkness, when the sun comes up, we really love it. But when the sun goes down, darkness also has its purpose. It is there for a very beautiful purpose, and it is there to allow us to gaze at the night skies and to really be enamored and be overwhelmed with what we have around us, and feel proud that we are on this beautiful planet Earth, where we can see such beautiful galaxies and night skies. Any final words, Kevin and Sonal, before we hand it over to Rupinder ma'am?
Maybe I can just say that we've just been through this pandemic. It's clearly had a big impact on the tourism sector, and as the world looks to build back better, the pandemic has shown us that it's not just about saving lives; it's about saving livelihoods. And we need to access all the resources we have. And the night sky, a clear night sky, is a resource that we need to tap into. And we are very keen to work with our partners in India to learn and to spread this around the world so that we can improve livelihoods globally.
Sonal?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I think I would just like to echo what Kevin just said. I think the pandemic has opened our eyes in more ways than one. And, the world is moving towards, a more sustainable form of development. And astrotourism is actually one of the most low impact and authentic ways, because the greatest assets that astrotourism requires, which is the night skies, never need to be maintained and developed. And what we have seen through our experiences is that, you know, astrotourism really requires just some passion and basic infrastructure to start. So yeah, I really hope it becomes the next frontier for nature-based tourism. Thank you, Jaideep. Thanks.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been an amazing presentation. We are getting a lot of comments on the side. We will take them, but I can't but stop reading from a philosopher who once said, are we human because we gaze at the stars, or do we gaze at them because we are human? Pointless, really. Do the stars gaze back? Now, that's the question. And I think it also puts us in a perspective where when you look at the vast open skies and the zillions of stars, I think somewhere it is also for you to see that whatever we may think we are just a tiny, tiny, tiny dot looking. I mean, they probably look back and say, oh, who are you? You are not even a star. So I think there's just so much takeaway from today's session at the material level, at the philosophical level, at the actual level. There have been some questions, and I'm going to let Bharti take those questions, but I do need to respond to today's presentation again at another level, that as we take tourism forward after the pandemic, it's been a very challenging time globally for travel totally being shut. And a lot of businesses have obviously been impacted. And it's not just businesses. There are people, there are humans behind those businesses. There are everyday livelihoods attached to those businesses. And we are happy to see in India, at least the domestic part of tourism is picking back. A lot of places, and particularly the open places, are the ones that are getting tourists back. And viewers, as you and I head back to travel and build our own happy memories back, remember that every time that you go and stay in a homestay, you're actually contributing to make sure that that homestay will run tomorrow also. You create livelihoods, you create value in the lives of those people. So please do start traveling, of course, with safety and all protocols put in place, because every time that you touch somebody's life, you're contributing in so many ways than one. So that's an important learning, I think, from today's webinar. The other sentiment that was coming out from some of you was that how and why on a government platform are we supporting not so only government initiative. I can only say to all of you that a government is nothing if it's not with its people. A government is all of you. A government is put together by the people, of the people, for the people. And at the end of the day, it is the partnership of people seriously sitting and working in the government and all of you. We are nothing if you are not with us. And if I say that in the sector of tourism particularly, we cannot create value if all of you don't join hands with us. And therefore, taking this initiative forward, and particularly now in the post-COVID times, and in a time when the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji, has been talking about an Atmanirbhar Bharat, a self-reliant Bharat. It is indeed a matter of great pride for us to have something like GHE run by very young Indians and taking this whole concept forward and adding to actual value in people's lives in these far-flung areas. So we, I think, need more such people. And through this platform, I would like to call upon all of you who are tuned in from India particularly, but from anywhere else in the world also, if you want to showcase something of our incredible India to all of us in India or to anyone else in the world, do join in and do join hands with us in Dekho Apna Desh as we showcase our beautiful country to you. So those are some of my, I would say larger thoughts, which I hope shall make some of us think on how tourism drives economies, societies in a sustainable manner. And I'm going to ask Bharti to do the questions. But I'm also going to remind all of you that next week, we are going to take you to a very different place. We're going to take you to Kevadia, which has not only India's, but the world's tallest statue. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, but I'm just telling you that don't forget to tune in next week at 11 a.m. We'll be taking you to Gujarat. Bharti, could you come in and do some of the questions? Because there are some very interesting questions.
Good morning. Kind of question. There are plenty of them which I see on the screen. The one thing is that there are a lot of young who want to know that if they want to come in the field of astrotourism, so like how to connect with you if they want a training and how to go about it. Thank you. Jaideep, can you please answer this?
Yeah, sorry, ma'am. Your voice was cutting in between. Can you, which question are we talking about? Hello.
No, if there are like a lot of people who want to come and like people come to know about this astrotourism is a field that they are looking for employment opportunity, or they have passion and they want to make it a career, and how to join this, how to come and work with people you.
Yeah. Sonal, would you like to go ahead with this?
Sure, Jaideep. As travel resumes, and the experts say that the international travel might take another couple of years to resume back to the pre-pandemic levels. Domestic tourism, and that's the whole motto of Dekho Apna Desh, to encourage people to actually look into the gems that are stored, gems that are there in our own country. In collaboration with OAD, we are now trying to replicate this model of astro stays in more areas which have access to clear dark skies. And the question of how are we actually going to train? So we are kind of curating a curriculum of sorts, which will address the needs of the training, which will again be an amalgamation of both astronomy and tourism together to curate those experiences for travelers. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, and I think
thank you so much.
Yes, you did. I think Bharti is having some problem with her connectivity, so I will continue to take the questions. Not a worry, Bharti. So there was one suggestion for the team here. For the solo travelers who actually have to visit the site, there is a little bit of a problem right now for planning the travel and the actual stay. Could we be looking at organizing, maybe putting a diary somewhere so that the solo travelers can actually get together and organize the logistics better? I'm sure, Jaideep, we can work on that.
yeah, ma'am, absolutely. In fact, that will be true for any remote areas as well, because travel to these locations is definitely a concern sometimes. And I think as part of, and also to build on what Sonal mentioned, how do you start this in any place? I think it has to be a mix of three things. One is understanding how to take travelers, solo or group, from a particular place where they are staying to this remote location. Then, of course, organizing their stay, which means setting up a homestay, and then bringing in the science and technology piece, which is the astronomy. So it has to be a sort of package which addresses all these three elements. And of course, if anyone would like to understand, we are very open, and we are very happy to share all our learnings with people who want to such astro stays. And again, our dream is to have multiple such astro stays all across India.
Great, thank you. Some of you are asking us for the link to this program. Well, viewers, all webinars that we host through this platform go on a recorded platform, Digital India Learning. It's available on YouTube. The links are available on the Ministry of Tourism's website. So you can go to the official website of the Ministry of Tourism, and all 75 webinars, today's being the 75th one, you will find the recordings over there. We are also hosting some questions that link with each webinar. And when you attempt those 5 questions, it's not about getting the right answers. You just have to attempt them. And then you get a certificate of participation. Keep collecting those certificates, because the team is thinking of what should we do when you collect so many certificates. I'm sure we'll bring something happy, some little memento, something that will remind you of your contribution to taking this beautiful, beautiful, incredible India forward. It's such a pleasure, viewers, always to join with all of you. Your questions, your feedback is invaluable to us. And I am so thankful to all of you because let me share a secret. We don't even work to prepare these webinars. It's people like Jaideep, Kevin, Sonal, and so many who have joined us before this. You all come forward, you craft, you create the content. All we are doing is just providing the platform to come together. So this is the love, I think, and this is the passion that keeps us going. So just keep encouraging us, just keep watching, sharing with families, friends, and whoever is interested in knowing about India, so that we will keep creating this content and keep bringing the beautiful, incredible India to all of you. So time is running out. I'm going to thank Kevin and invite him to come to India very soon. And thank you, Jaideep. Thank you, Sonal, for taking time for this and being with us. And so, viewers, next Saturday, 13th of February, 11 a.m., we are going to tune in from Kevadia in Gujarat and show you the tallest statue of the world. So do tune in. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.